Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, so your name, your job title, and what that looks like for UP3?
Yeah, so I'm Becci Copley. I am the Professional Services Director, so I guess I'm ultimately accountable for the delivery of our engagements and our services.
Can you share with me how the company came to build our rail fraud app and what benefit that provides to customers?
Yes, absolutely. So this is one of my favourite stories. So the rail fraud app started many moons ago. We were called in, it was Callum Ridley, our head of architecture, and myself. We were called into a meeting at Virgin Trains, as they were at the time, with their revenue protection team and a member or an ex-member of the British Transport Police. And they were talking about the fraudulent activity on delay repay systems is a general issue across the industry. And they asked us for a report. They said, can you build us a report from the delay repay system, which we'd previously implemented, that we can then use to identify trends of different claimants, so we can identify duplicate claimants, duplicate tickets, and all that and everything. And Callum and I, being Callum and I, went, well, we could give you a report, or we could build a system that does it automatically for you. So we had two very creative stakeholders in the room. They were very supportive of us kind of having a bit of a play, for want of a better phrase. And so we started to look at what's the different algorithms. So what's, if they were assessing a load of data manually, what would they look for? What kind of trends would highlight suspicious activity to them, and all of this. Outside of this, Callum went and bought pretty much every book on fraud that he could get his hands on. We're pretty sure he's on a watch list somewhere. And read up on it, basically, and the different ways that people commit fraud and the different ways of how they've been caught, how, you know, how the police identify fraudulent activity and trends and all of that stuff. And basically, we then got to a point where very quickly we built a prototype of what is now our fraud application, which showed a couple of use cases of duplicate payments and also duplicate tickets, where we could use a photograph to actually identify whether the ticket had been tampered with as well. And we went back to Virgin Trains and we said to them, a report is reactive. It's after the event. You've already paid the fraud money. You've paid it out, right? Do you ever get it back? If you catch that it's fraudulent, do you get the money back? And they said no. So we basically said, well, what if we stopped the payments going out if fraud was suspected? And of course, they jumped at the idea. They were like, yeah, we love it. It's brilliant. So in line with our delay repay system, we implemented the first iteration of the fraud application. And within 3 days of it being live, it had already recouped its return on investment of what it cost Virgin Trains for us to build that application.
Wow. Just in 3 days?
In 3 days.
Very impressive. And you mentioned previously the Delay Repay app. Yeah. How does that work with the rail fraud app? Because I believe we built the Delay Repay app as well, didn't we?
We did. So the Delay Repay app is built on a lot of concepts around customer service management within ServiceNow, but it is specialised for the rail industry. It's not just around delay repay, it's also includes things like inquiries, compliments, all the different interactions that a customer may have with a rail company. But the biggest part is the delay repay. So if somebody is delayed, they are well within their rights to claim a refund or to claim compensation from the train operating company. It's basically cases that are logged within ServiceNow, and there are aspects to it. So there is something called a journey validator. So we will validate that the journey they have claimed they are on is not just valid, but also we will validate the delay as well. So it feeds into lots of different rail industry applications to validate that the ticket is valid. So it will go out to the massive ticket database, and we can see that the ticket is valid, the journey was valid, the delay was valid, and then it will pay the compensation. It also calculate the amount of compensation that the person is entitled to as well. And it's the end-to-end process of that is managed within the rail compensation application. The fraud application complements that. So the fraud application sits on top of that as an overlayer. So you can have the rail contact application by itself, or you can also have the fraud application as well, and it sits over the top of it. So it reads all of the data and absorbs all of the data from the compensation records, and it updates the flows that sit within in the previous application as well to include the fraud checks. So if you have fraud prior to a compensation being paid and generated for payment, the fraud check runs, and it will actually block that case if they think that it's potential fraudulent activity. You can then release it if you discover that it's a false positive, or you can continue to block it and notify the client at the end of it.
Is there any reason why a rail company would only want the fraud, the Delay Repay app without the fraud app? You think that they would?
We haven't had anyone yet.
Okay. I thought that might be the case. Okay.
Not when they see the return on investment.
Yeah.
The business case pretty much writes itself.
Yeah. Was it 3 days?
It was for Virgin Trains. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Becci.